Imagine being a pharmacist in your 20s, being diagnosed with MS, and not knowing if you're going to be able to walk by the time you turn 30 years old, let alone 40, 50, 60, 70. Scary. Now imagine discovering that you can impact your health journey and your journey with MS by taking responsibility for your health and including more plant-based foods in your diet. Powerful. I'd like to introduce you to Ashley Madden, human extraordinaire with a fantastic cookbook that is called the Plant-Based Cookbook, Vegan, Gluten-Free, Oil-Free Recipes for Lifelong Health. She's an advocate for plant-based eating, and she's amazing at just simplifying how to include more plants in your diet. Today, she is going to give you tips on how to include more plant-based foods in your meals, easy, effortlessly, without thinking about it, without the shoulds, without the, you got to do this. She makes it simple and she makes it easy. And she's also shares with us her favorite ingredients to have on hand in her fridge and in her cupboards for plant-based eating. I'm Natalie Forsbauer, founder and editor-in-chief of Heart and Soul magazine. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to Heart and Soul TV and like this video and share it with your friends to help amplify the conversation about healthy living and regenerative farming and regenerative gardening and growing your own food. And if you haven't subscribed to Heart and Soul magazine yet, head on over to heartandsoulmagazine.com and grab your subscription membership for just $39.99 a year. You make yourself an amazing day, and thanks for joining us for the conversation with Ashley Madden. Thank you for joining me today, Ashley. It's really nice to hop on a call with you and learn more about your journey and the importance and value of plant-based foods.
Oh my God, thank you so much for inviting me to have a chat.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So Ashley, tell us how you landed in the plant-based world.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and I've shared this story many times, and I go through this in my cookbook too, because I think it's important for people to know that sometimes, like you leave before you find what works for you. So I am a pharmacist as well. I'm no longer a practicing pharmacist, but when I was practicing in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And at that time, it was a very difficult thing to accept. I didn't, even though I was a healthcare practitioner, I actually didn't really know much about it in terms of being a patient.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a couple of years, I really kind of buried it and just assumed that I would take medication and just hope for the best. And then when I kind of became more comfortable and accepted the diagnosis, I thought, I've got to look into this more. There's got to be more to it. When it comes to heart disease and like high blood pressure, we talk so much about diet and lifestyle. And then I thought, well, this is a chronic disease. It's an autoimmune disease. There's got to be something that I can do outside of taking medication, or in addition to taking medication, to increase the odds of prolonged health, of avoiding progression.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started doing research with my healthcare, practitioner hat on, I was so surprised to find out that actually there were a lot of things that were being researched, and there was a lot of information out there about things that you could do in terms of diet if you had an autoimmune disease. So I just almost overnight was like, okay, processed foods are out, and leaning more towards whole foods and antioxidants and anti-inflammatory foods, which essentially are just plants, in general. Mm-hmm. And in that discovery of eating for health, I fell in love with the culinary world as well. And merging health and food to me was just incredible, and it became an obsession of mine. And I was so passionate about it that I decided to become a holistic nutritionist. And then I moved to New York and went to culinary school. And then the rest is kind of history. So I have no doubt that healthy food can be absolutely delicious, super healthy, without compromise. And yeah, that's kind of what I teach and preach and do and share in my recipes.
Well, you said something that was really powerful, which I think a lot of us aren't aware about, is you connected MS being an autoimmune disease. Can you just speak to that a little bit more?
Yes. So, um, an autoimmune disease obviously is a disease where your immune system is kind of out of whack. So in MS with multiple sclerosis, your immune system accidentally attacks the myelin in your brain, so a certain tissue, I guess you could say, in your brain, and then that causes degeneration, and then your physical symptoms depend on which part of your brain is affected.
Mm.
So there are things in our lifestyles and our diets that can influence our immune systems, how they act. I mean, immune systems and immunity in general is a really hot topic now with like COVID and these kinds of
Yeah.
things. And autoimmune diseases, which include not just MS, but rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, Crohn's, like there's a long list of autoimmune diseases, and those are skyrocketing all around the world, especially in developed countries right now. And the question remains, why? Why are so many of us having these immune systems that aren't working properly, that are overactive? And a lot of things can be done when it comes to lifestyle and diet, the way we live, the things we consume, to help, shift our immune systems and help them work properly. And in saying that, I also want to make sure that people understand that I'm not saying don't take medication or seek
Mhm.
medical advice. Those two things, like, you can go to the doctor and take medication and do things in your day-to-day life, and those two things can work, to move you in the same direction.
Yeah, I love how you presence that too, because there is value in both. It's not either or,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely. I agree.
it's this and, right? And how can they
Absolutely.
both serve you? So thank you for
Yeah.
presencing that. And what did you discover? What did you discover about plants, and what was the magic within that?
Um, I think knowledge is power. And
Mhm.
as I learned more about, like, um, I hate to say the word healing properties because I feel like that word's been like spun a lot. But actually, like the healing properties and the the connection between food and your body. Like, it's almost like I never thought about like what I eat gives me the nutrients for my body to work. And I just, that kind of connection, which is so basic, was so profound to me. And I grew up in Newfoundland, and I always thought, like, healthy food is like diets or salads or like deprivation. And in
Mm.
discovering the power of food, I also um, was pretty certain that I couldn't accept that my food would be like crappy. And then when I started experimenting, I was like, oh my God, I just made this delicious burger out of black beans. Oh my God, I just made a green smoothie and it tastes like a milkshake, those kinds of things. And I was like, this is mind blowing. Like, I remember the first time I made like a smoothie with spinach in it. And this is years ago. This is like before green smoothies were a thing. You couldn't like look them up, this was like
Yep.
way back. And I remember like just looking around being like, has anybody done this? This is incredible,
Yes.
So it's that kind of like, I think maybe the timing of when I got into this too, it wasn't as available as it is now. And there was so much novelty in it for me. And that's what sparked the passion, and it's still there. I'm still like shocked and so excited about like a cauliflower steak. It's
Yes.
really
Yes.
like an authentic love that I have. And so the discovery was, oh my God, this is super healthy for me. And
Yeah.
I do not feel like this food isn't as delicious as my food was before.
That's really powerful, healthy and delicious. And what were some of the biggest shifts that you made from the way you were eating, besides getting rid of the processed foods and shifting to plant-based? What were some of the bigger shifts that you made, and how did you keep yourself moving towards that?
So the biggest shifts I made, I would have to say, would be the first was just to include more vegetables.
Mhm.
So I think the thing that I talk about a lot, even though I'm 100% plant-based, is that if it's a daunting task to eat like healthier, whatever that means in whatever space you're in, just focus on the things you can add instead of add first, take away after. That's how I feel like it's an easier approach, because sometimes removing just creates this like feeling of deprivation, and it sucks, and you don't feel like you have the motivation to do the things you can. So add first. So for me, it was adding vegetables. Every night at dinner, my plate had to be half a plate of vegetables, steamed, roasted, raw, whatever. So
Yeah.
that was number one. Number two was removing dairy. I removed dairy
Mm.
almost overnight. And
Mhm.
I know that's a hard one for people because cheese, ice cream. And then that kind of connects to the second part of your question about how did I stay motivated.
Mhm.
I feel like fear is such a really good motivator. I, you know, I was in my early 20s thinking about, am I going to be able to, walk when I'm 35 or 40? And that was such a motivating fear. I hate to say that uh, fear is not a good thing, but for me, it wasn't really something I was considering. I was like, I'm going to do whatever I need to do. So when I removed dairy, there was never a moment where I missed anything. It was kind of the opposite. I was always shocked when I found an alternative,
Yeah.
But having said that, I know that not everybody who wants to make these shifts is facing, this life altering diagnosis or something like that. So to other people who are looking for the motivation, I often say just take it one meal at a time and don't see things as black and white. For some people, like small steps is the way to go, so you just make every good choice matters. I think in a lot of the diet world, especially in social media, everything's and
Mhm.
it makes it seem like you're not making progress if chose the side salad instead of the fries. That's excellent. Or
Yeah.
you tried almond milk instead of like the normal 2% that you get. That's excellent. Like, so I think that there needs to be more like positive talk around like small things, and your diet doesn't need to fit into like a box.
Yeah, I love Andrew Huberman was actually just talking about that on the Huberman Lab, is that our behavior and our habits dictate where we go. It's not changing necessarily the thoughts in our head first. It's like doing the little changes that make
Yes.
big impact over time, right?
Absolutely. And
So true.
sometimes we wait until we feel motivated to make a change, but sometimes just doing the thing then gives
Yeah,
you the motivation. So
that's
if
right.
you just don't feel like it, just do something. Do one thing.
Yeah,
Try
yeah,
one thing.
yeah. I'm curious, what are your favorite ingredients to cook with? Like, what do you always like to have on hand?
Okay. I actually love this question because I think my answers are a little odd. I actually just did an interview last week, and they asked me like a similar, or what was like my favorite plant-based food. If I don't have a head of cauliflower in the fridge, I know this sounds insane. I feel like I need to get groceries. Cauliflower for me is the most versatile
Mm.
ingredient. I use it to make sauces. We eat it whole. It's in a lot of like my stews and cauliflower wings. So cauliflower is a big one. Um, The second I would say is almond butter. I absolutely love almond butter, and I find that it's also so versatile. And then some kind of greens. I really like to have greens on hand, whether it's kale or Swiss chard or spinach, just something in the fridge that I can throw in at the end of the soup to get that green thing in. I try and eat something green at every meal. So yeah, I would say those are the three things that I always have in my fridge. And then there are other things that I always have around too, like whole grains and dried beans. Those are the staples pretty much in a
Yeah,
plant-based diet, and again, so versatile, so I always have those on hand as well.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Cauliflower is one of my favorite versatile foods too. And
Yeah.
what about organic or not organic? How important is that, and where does that land in the plant-based world for you?
For me personally, if organic is available, I always choose organic.
Mhm.
I love organic farming. I love the idea of organic food. I think it should be like the standard.
Mhm.
However, if,
Can you
for
tell me
example,
why? Sorry, can you tell me why
yeah,
you think it should be the standard and why it's important?
because organic in probably the most layman terms, or the most basic meaning of that term, sorry, is that it doesn't have chemicals in it, and it's not made with a lot of fake things, and it's healthier, right? That's the the normal understanding of it. But organic, to me, also represents other things like seasonality, local farmers,
Mm,
local distributors, um, eating that kind of matches the environment and the climate and what your body needs in those moments. There's so much about that, and I try to live in that space, especially I'm in Taiwan, where seasonal food and organic food is a very popular thing. So like, for example, right now cauliflower is in season, so I have lots of cauliflower. But in the summer, it's very difficult to find cauliflower here. Same thing with kale. Kale is in season right now. I won't be able to find kale in a few months. And in the summer, there's mangoes, and that right now I can't find a mango. And I think the way that we have learned to cook in the West is that like everything's available all the time.
yeah.
When I first moved here, I was like, damn, I can't find that. But now I'm like, no, I'm not supposed to, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer organic when it's available. And I also feel like my dollar is my vote. So
Mm,
if I'm able to purchase organic, which I recognize and acknowledge is more expensive a lot of the time, then
mhm,
I like to do that, because if I'm able to and I can, I will, because that's how I feel and that's what I value. So
mhm,
that's why I really love organic. And
mhm,
yes, it's healthier. It has
mhm.
less stuff in it, right? You want whole food from the ground into your kitchen without too many middlemen, I guess, too many steps in between. But having said all that, if the choice is a non-organic vegetable or no vegetables at all, buy the non-organic for sure. And I feel that way as well. If
Mhm.
we only have whatever vegetable you want, let's say carrots, onions, anything like that, and it's just not organic, then yeah, I'm going to buy it. And I feel that way about a lot of things, because I've in previous years when I've worked with people, they're like, well, I can't find organic berries or fruits, so I don't eat a lot of fruit. I'm like, no, 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 back it up. It's like, don't stress yourself about that. That's how I feel, because I feel like there's a lot of stress
Yeah.
around there, especially with families
Yeah.
with children and those kinds of things. No, and there are
Mm,
things you can do when you're
mm,
buying non-organic. Peel it, wash it well, look for alternatives. Frozen vegetables and fruit sometimes are equally
yeah.
as healthy. Some of them have more vitamin C, more affordable, more practical for your lifestyle. So I love organic, but it's not the be all and end all. And if you can't afford organic, you can still be super, super healthy and enjoy all of the vegetables. And I like to take that stress off people's plates, because I don't think it's
Yes.
necessary.
Yeah. I like that, taking it off people's plates, literally.
Yeah, it's kind of
And
like a bit of a
yeah, I grew up on the West Coast in BC. So, and on an organic vegetable and blueberry farm. And so,
oh my god.
I lived in the culture of it. And then I moved to Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
It is hard to find organic food rurally out here. And there's a lot of really good organic farmers, grain farmers and stuff like that. But in the grocery store, I can find mushrooms and leeks, some and greens. And then everything else is a hit and miss. Sometimes apples come in, and there's maybe a couple other things. When they come in, I hoard them. And I know that here's
Oh,
another
I'm
trick though. You're with me? Yeah, here's another
yeah.
trick is, did you know that vegetables and fruit last a really long time in your fridge? So I will buy 5 bags of apples and put them all in my fridge, and never store apples and carrots together though, right? Because they ruin each other. I don't know if you know that,
Or
or if
apples
you're,
and onions, right?
yeah, yeah, they ruin, yeah, apples and onions and apples and
I didn't
carrots.
know
They ruin each
carrots.
other.
I
Yeah.
did not know carrots.
Yeah, they make them, they make them both don't taste good. So always store
Did
those
not know
ones
that.
separately.
I will do
But
that.
so yeah, so anyways, I just buy lots and I put them in my fridge, and they
That's good.
last for like
But
a
you
month or
just
two.
reminded me, this is something I also like to point out, is that the environmental working groups, Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15 vegetables that you don't have to worry about if they're not organic, and the 12
Mhm.
that you might want to, look for in the organic form. I do follow that a lot. So I think, like, I feel like celery is always in the Dirty Dozen. So when I see organic celery, I'm like, yes, I will buy 3 bags of organic celery, and we're going to have celery juice. We're going to have celery soup. So
Yes.
I do keep that in the back of my mind as well.
Oh, that's really cool. Awesome. What else would you like us to know before we wrap up our time with you?
Um, Thank you so much, by the way. This chat was excellent. I would say so. I have a cookbook out. It's called the Plant Based Cookbook Vegan, Gluten Free, Oil Free Recipes for Lifelong Health. It's a mouthful. And you can get it anywhere books are sold. And so that cookbook was something I worked on for years. Um, and it explains a lot about how I eat and kind of the food
Mhm.
principles that are a part of the plant based world, but also how you can eat more plant based without, again, putting yourself in, in a box, let's say. So that cookbook just came out a year ago, and it's on Amazon's best cookbook editor list. So that's been really exciting, and it's done really well. And people can find me on my website, which is www.riseshinecook.ca. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook as Rise Shine Cook. And yeah, I'm currently working on my next cookbook. So that's really exciting. Yeah. Um, so yeah, and I love hearing from people and getting emails and messages about people's experience with my cookbook, or questions about different ingredients. Really is like the most exciting thing for me. So I love to hear from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ashley, I love how you presence food and plants in your books, and of course it's plant-based, but you do it with such curiosity and wonder and grace. Like a person can actually feel your passion for the food that you are creating and the recipes that you bring together
Oh,
in your images and
that's
in the way you write and throughout
that is the biggest
put things
compliment. Thank
together.
you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. We're really excited to amplify your work. And I wish I had your book to hold up because I actually discovered it online just recently and
One
I'm
second.
deeply grateful. Do you have it?
I have like a lot of them. This is the book. This is the plant-based cookbook. So,
It's beautiful.
and
It's beautiful.
yeah, actually, I'm actually using it today to make these muffins.
Um,
Muffins are made with chickpeas. Yeah, so here's the book, and again, available anywhere that you buy books. So Indigo, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those places.
yeah, well, thanks so much for your time, Ashley. Many blessings and big love. And I can't wait to connect with you again and see your new book that you're working on.
Thank you so much.
Grateful you joined us for that conversation and interview. If you haven't subscribed to Heart and Soil magazine yet, head over to heartandsoilmagazine.com, click on that subscribe button, and join us for just $39.99 a year. You make yourself an amazing day, and I'm really grateful you're part of our community.